Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, he spent 15 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. He's dedicated the rest of his life to social and criminal justice reform. His amazing story is just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
I had the privilege of representing my next guest about a decade ago when he and a dozen guys wrote a book. It was called Tested: How 12 Wrongly Convicted Men Held On to Hope. Richard Miles is with me now. He is the CEO and founder of Miles of Freedom. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for the invitation, Jeff.
Absolutely. Well, you're one of my favorite people, and we got reconnected after a decade, and you haven't changed a bit. You look just as young as you did a decade ago.
Well, same to you. Same to you. I just appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. Tell me about your nonprofit.
Yeah, so Miles of Freedom is actually celebrating 10 years this year. Our whole mission is to provide holistic services for individuals, families, and communities impacted by incarceration. To date, we've worked with about 1,600 men and women returning home from prison. We have a fresh produce distribution that we partner with North Texas Food Bank, where we've distributed over 1 million pounds of food to families that's experiencing food insecurity, which was very important during COVID. And we're located in South Dallas.
Oh, it's an amazing story, and we found an overview video. Let's go ahead and watch that now.
My number was 728716, and I learned that number more than I learned my name, my family, or my social security number, because that's what I was defined as, a number. That night when I got out of the car, May 15, 1994, I was walking home, and that was the longest walk I ever took in my life. It took 15 years to get home. The actual crime took place approximately 6 miles away from where I was actually walking at. I was taken not because I fit the description, but because I fit the demographics of an individual that killed one person and shot another person. I went to prison for 15 years for a crime that I did not commit. I was 19 years old. One of the first things that happens when you're incarcerated is you are immediately reduced from a human to a commodity. You are not a citizen anymore. I believe there is a purpose for what I went through. And with that on my mind, I strive every day to be held accountable to what God has for me. We met each other on Cofield Unit around 2005, 2006. I mean, we had a lot of long nights just talking about life and getting out. And I remember the night I left, I jumped up on the bed and I ran downstairs. I'm screaming all
Everybody be like, if I get out, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. You don't know exactly what you're gonna do because you make penitentiary plans in the penitentiary. But when you get out, those penitentiary plans don't apply. That's why they go back. You have to separate prison life from society. It's like 2 different realms.
How the system treats the individuals that are incarcerated, it's not conducive to transition into society. Everything that an average person knows how to do because they have been introduced to it, we're thrown into it. The internet, the bus routes, you can't get employment, you can't get an ID, you can't get back into school. You know before you walk out of prison that you have an X on your back. An identifiable mark that will limit your success in society. Even coming out as an innocent person, somebody's gonna always lift an eyebrow. You beat the system. No, the system beat me, physically. It beat me. We started Miles of Freedom not because I was wrongfully incarcerated, but because I was incarcerated. I tell people coming out of prison, I know you didn't have all the accesses, because I was there. I know you're limited, because I was there. But it doesn't limit you out here. You're out here now. That's an opportunity for us to show our change. When Van got out, we were able to assist him, and he's a foreman now at a warehouse, been working almost 4 years. Kenneth James, his biggest thing was going back to school.
I just knew it was over. I knew I couldn't get a construction job or a welding job. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I want to thank you, Richard, for encouraging me that at 74 years old, there is still some worth in me.
Yes, sir.
And I am glad I'm pursuing my dream. And what is that dream? It's to help somebody that's bound by addictions like I was.
Prison is not just a physical place. It can be a mental place. It can be a financial situation. It can be a relationship. We all have these miles of freedom that we must walk. One of the greatest things that came out of my incarceration was an in-depth spiritual awareness. When everything else that's tangible to you is stripped away from you, the core of your being is the strongest part about you. We are people capable of extraordinary things, no matter what we have been through. My name is Richard Miles, and my number was 728716.
Richard, I think the most impressive thing is that you came out and your heart was still open. You were not full of bitterness and anger. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, so that's a very important question, and I think three things. First and foremost is my spirituality, my upbringing. I was raised by my dad. He passed as a bishop. He's still a bishop. The educational level that I had when I went into prison, my family support, but then also I met so many innocent men on Cofield unit, the unit that I was on, and so it showed me that this was bigger than me. And I had to look at it from a perspective of, you know, how can we all benefit coming out of this together?
Absolutely. And we were on your website. You have a number of different services that you offer. Job readiness, so important, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's very important. You know, most people don't understand when you return home from prison, life has changed, society has changed. Yeah. You know, really getting that person equipped for the workspace is important.
Pre-release.
Pre-release is also important because people incarcerated need to know there are resources out here. And so how can we maintain that connection and build hope up before that person comes home?
And post-release.
Post-release is just as important because once you get out, we want you to stay out. Recidivism, we don't want you to go back in. So really being there, walking with you along the way is important.
We were talking off the air and I asked you, is there one individual that you've helped that comes to mind? And you were telling me a story. Will you share it?
Yeah, most definitely. So when we first started, we had a gentleman, his name was Ricky, and we had an opportunity at a particular hotel. We encourage people to be on time for interviews. This gentleman was late. We're getting ready to leave. He calls us, come to find out he's riding a bicycle from Oak Cliff to South Dallas. He's sweating profusely. He gets on the van. I look at him. I'm like, oh my God, you're not ready. You're not ready. He was the one that got the job. And so through that perseverance, his mind was focused, and it just taught me a lesson not to prejudge people. Give them that space to be their authentic self, and they will succeed.
Let's talk about your food ministry. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so in 2019, Leadership Dallas class of 2019 connected with the Martin Luther King Center. That's where we're located in South Dallas. And they wanted to address the food insecurity in South Dallas. And so they renovated a room. Miles of Freedom took over as the stewards for the MLK Fresh Produce Distribution. Our partner is the North Texas Food Bank, and to date we've distributed over 1 million pounds of food to individuals experiencing food insecurity. which was very important during COVID, and is one of the reasons that we became an organization that was of a necessity during that time frame.
One of the things that I've heard over and over again is that our prison system is not really meant to reform men and women. Tell us about your programs and the recidivism rate.
Yes, sir. And so pre-COVID in 2019, 1,600 men and women we've worked with, we had about a 7% recidivism rate. And those for individuals that just go to our case management program. What Miles of Freedom has also done, we've created a social business under the nonprofit. It's a lawn service. And what we found is when we're able to put people directly in a space of making money, addressing a financial issue, then the potential to go back to prison or to do something that's not beneficial drops considerably. And so we're learning how to best serve the people that we work with and not feel like we always have all the answers.
I know there are bosses right now watching this. Tell us why someone coming out of prison can be a great employee.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the first thing that you got to understand is people coming home from prison have a compensated work ethic because that's all we did in prison. We worked for free for 10, 15, 20 years. And so when you come home, you want to show that you have value. You're very good with time management. Only thing you need is an opportunity. You know, we're very dedicated because we don't want to reoffend. We don't want to let anybody down. But sometimes that opportunity is not open to everybody.
And Richard, you told me that Miles of Freedom, obviously your last name, but Miles is an acronym.
Yes, so Miles really stands for motivating, inspiring, law-abiding, enthusiastic, and successful. And it's basically what we aspire, not only the people that we work with, but everybody, our donors, our volunteers, everybody that experiences Miles of Freedom, we want them to walk away feeling like that.
Well, you are inspiring us today. Final thoughts. What would you like to leave the audience with?
You know, first and foremost, thank you, Jeff, for your journey, for creating this platform to create spaces and conversation, and for the journey that I've been on. People need to understand that there are innocent people in our prison systems, and we have to do the things that we need to do to make sure we secure humanity. But also for people that's returning home from prison that may be guilty, what can we do to make sure that they thrive and not just survive in our economy and in our communities?
Wow, I could not have said it better myself. Milesoffreedom.org is the website. Richard Miles, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.